How many of us would like the ability to travel back in time and fix things? I'd say probably a lot of us. This is why time travel stories are so popular. They allow the protagonist to hijack that one thing we can't, the thing called time. And while Erased has similar things going on, the ingenuity and the exposition make it stand out. It is an impeccable series, one that keeps you on your edge until the last episode, and while it may or may not disappoint you, I don't think anyone can deny that this show knows how to have your attention. It's a time travel suspense done right. Well then, let's see what we have. Our protagonist is a 29-year-old manga artist named Satoru Fujinuma. He seems completely normal at first glance, but he has a somewhat uncanny ability. You see, whenever something bad is about to happen, he sees a radiant blue butterfly and instantly goes a few moments back in time. Not a lot, just a few minutes per se. In doing so, he's able to stop a major tragedy from taking place, and while the world may never know, Satoru has saved an unusual number of lives using this ability. He calls it revival, and it's basically about going back in time just enough that you can stop a tragedy from happening. You still need enough clarity of mind about what you have to do though, otherwise you panic and let the tragedy happen without doing anything. Now Satoru is a manga artist, but he hasn't been getting anywhere recently. The last time he saw his editor, he was told that his work wasn't deep enough. Ouch, and rejected. The man tears up his manga by the river, goes back to his apartment, and sort of stares at the ceiling. This is where he states that he is scared to get to the heart of his own mind. That's right. Even though Satoru is casually making a world a better place, he's scared. He's scared to get to the heart of his own mind. Next, he is at his part-time delivery job on the way to deliver some juicy pizza somewhere, but on the way, the revival happens. He sees the butterfly, goes back in time a few seconds, and starts looking around instantly. Something is about to go horribly wrong. He notices that the truck driver is presumably asleep, and if nothing is done, a kid is going to be hit by that truck. He tries to wake him up, but when that doesn't work, Satoru grabs the steering wheel himself and shifts the direction of the truck. The kid's life is saved, but he then ends up getting hit by a car instead. Things then start seeming a little fuzzy. Satoru has flashbacks of his old memories. He wonders if he's going to die. Well, not that it would matter anyway, his existence is trivial, or so he thinks. But then during the flashback, he witnesses a lonely girl dressed in red just standing in the park. Deep down, Satoru knows that in the days of his childhood, he was there. Following this, he finally opens his eyes. A cute high school girl named Katagiri is sitting by him. She works at the same pizza delivery place as him and is quite genuine and a cheerful girl. She explains how he was out for 2 days, but thankfully, he managed to save the kid's life. She was there and she saw everything. As it turns out, the driver wasn't asleep. He had actually died from a heart attack. Katagiri couldn't help but notice that Satori smiled when he was told how there weren't any more casualties aside from him and the driver. She calls him out, because honestly, the guy rarely ever smiles. The girl then talks about her dream. She doesn't actually mention it, but states that if you say something again and again, the chances of something happening along those lines is quite high. This resonates with Satoru. Later, when he returns back home, he finds his mother named Sachiko cooking in his apartment. She's actually 52 years old, but it's amazing how she looks nothing like that. She tells him that she'll be staying at his cramped place until she is sure that he's completely fine. A head-on collision is nothing to sneeze at after all. Then at night, while she's watching TV, a news headline talks about the disappearance of a young girl. Looks like this brings back some memories because she then asks him if he remembers the incident that happened when he was in the 5th grade. This sort of gets the gears turning in the back of his head, and he eventually remembers. Around 18 years ago, 2 of his classmates went missing. He was good friends with a food delivery guy back then, a kind and gentle man whom he used to call Yuki. But around 6 months after the disappearance of his classmates, he was arrested as a serial killer and sentenced to death. Next morning, he and his mother are out grocery shopping when he sees a kid crying and some balloons flying, but more importantly, he sees that blue butterfly, which means it's revival time. He immediately starts looking, but nothing seems wrong, which causes him to get anxious. He even tells his mom if she has any weird feeling. Sure enough, she looks around with him and ends up noticing a rather suspicious man who seemed as though he was kidnapping a little girl, but maybe it's because she was observing him. But the man just drives away by himself and leaves the kid there. Coincidentally, Katagiri is around, so she tags along with them. His wholesome mom invites her for some curry. However, as they are on their way to his apartment, that man from before observes them from a distance. He is still in his car and he is looking very sus. The 3 of them have a nice dinner together, some cute relationship jokes, and Satoru then drops her back home on his bicycle. When he returns, his mom says that the abduction incident was never actually resolved, and this causes him to look into the matter. He then also realizes that the girl in the red dress who he saw while unconscious was one of the victims. He remembers how he blamed himself for her death, how he should have offered her a helping hand when she always seems alone. Satoru admits that it's because of these memories that he's always scared to dive deeper into his own heart. Meanwhile, his mom is grocery shopping again. She could have sworn that it was definitely a kidnapping the other day. The man just changed his mind after he looked at her. Could it be that he actually knew her? She ponders over it and comes to a shocking realization. She returns to the apartment and makes up her mind to talk to Satoru about it. That incident still hasn't been resolved. The real culprit wasn't the food delivery guy. Unfortunately, when the apartment door opens and she calls out to her son, she has already been stabbed. It was the killer, and seeing him now confirms it. She should have believed Satoru when he told everyone that Yuki is not the killer. As life fades away from her body, she tries to reach her phone and call her son, but the killer picks up the phone from right in front of her and simply lets her die in agony. During this time, Satoru was still at work. Katagiri compliments his mother's curry and tells him to deliver the compliment to her, but little did either of them know, Satoru's mother is already dead. From that point onwards, things happen too suddenly. He walks by a suspicious man on the way to his apartment. Once there, he's scared speechless at the sight of his mother's corpse. A neighborhood lady sees this, reports it to the police, and before Satoru could ever process what was going on, he is arrested for his mother's murder. Crazy? I know. Though this is where another revival happens, only this time he doesn't just go back a minute or 5 minutes into the past. He goes all the way back to when he was in the 5th grade. That's right, he goes back 18 years in time. For better or worse, this story has only just begun. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Trust me, this anime knows how to keep you on your toes. And if you have already watched it, definitely share your thoughts on the anime with the rest of us. Yes, let's talk about some anime, and feel free to also drop any other anime you want me to cover. I'll go through your suggestions and even tag you when I get to the anime you suggested. As always, a sincere like and subscribe can go a long way for your karma, just saying. Very well then, with that said, I'll see you guys in my next video.